Hello, friends, and welcome to Spirit Chat episode, I believe, number 11. And I'm very excited
Oh,
about, I know, episode 11. So I'm really, really excited about my guest today. And the reason why I invited her on is because, first of all, I want you to get to know her because she is a longtime South Florida radio personality with 101.5 Light FM. But that's not the main reason why I'm bringing her on. I'm bringing her on because she is an amazing, beautiful, energetic, heartwarming angel. And
wow.
yeah.
No one has ever said that. I
And
love it.
so the reason why I really wanted to bring her on, not just because of what she does, but how we met and how we landed here today. And all I can say is that I would not be here right now on this platform if it was not for you, Julie.
Oh, will I be on your Oscar speech too?
Oh, if I'm going to sound like Matthew McConaughey, I don't know if you ever heard his Oscar speech, but oh my God. But yeah, let's put it out there. Roll out
Okay,
the red
why not?
carpet.
I'll be waiting. I'll be in the audience waiting for
I'll
my.
be waiting. Okay. So Julie.
Yes, Helen. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I that makes me
Really,
happy to hear you say that.
I really am because I love this. I love this conversation. I love the
Mm,
subject matter. I do. I love it. I feel it. It's something that always has resonated with me. So this is a thrill for me, honest to goodness. So thank you for inviting me. And I love
oh,
that it's number 11.
number 11.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
cool.
I didn't even realize that meeting that because it's a very high frequency number. But yeah, so I wanted to tap in if you could share with my listeners um, who you are. Now, I gotta back up the bus here. Are you
Yeah.
Canadian?
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. So I couldn't remember the whole backstory. And that's what we want to bring forward here is sharing the backstory of how we landed here. So if you want to share your experience and how
Okay.
this all unfolded and just, share that with my listeners.
So I am a Canadian like you.
Yep.
I was five. I was born in Montreal, and when I was five, my parents, who are from Italy, I'm Italian descent, they were like, "Okay, we're really over the cold." So they came to South Florida, and we never left. So that was, I won't say how many years ago, many. So I grew up in South Florida. My parents, we had bakeries and we had a motel on Hollywood Beach. I mean, we did all the things that the immigrants do, which is have 89 jobs, right? And they don't hire people, the kids work. So I was an indentured servant my whole life. So I have a good work ethic, which I'm grateful for that. I joke about it and I worked very hard, but I'm grateful. And so I fell in love with music and the radio because I had strict parents and that was my escape. And I loved to talk. So I really believe I was guided to, I really do believe that that's why I'm still working. Is someone talking? I'm still working 30 some years later in this industry. So having said all of that, I always loved getting my palm read, getting my cards done. I mean, I always loved it. And I'm Catholic, so you're not supposed to love that
That's
stuff.
definitely go woo woo.
Right. But my mom loved it too. So I was like, well, hey, if she likes it, I like it.
There you
So
go.
I'm always drawn to that, always attracted to that since I was a kid. But never the bad stuff. Like I'll never forget we had a Ouija board when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, does he like me? We were always so silly about it. We were never like, we never did anything ever with any kind of malice. But it scared me. And I was like, this is not like one day it scared us, me and my girlfriends, or I think my sister was there too. And I said, let's get rid of this. And we did. So just to tell you, like everything I do in terms of that subject matter is always positive and good.
Yep. All
So
about attention.
yes. And so I don't want to meander. There's so many little avenues we can go down. And that's why we love each other because we can talk about everything. Let's fast forward. Let's say how many years ago? I will say probably 5 or 6 on Twitter. I follow another medium. And this other woman also followed him. Her name was Ornella.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of followed each other because we have an interest, a common interest. And she kept talking about this book that she'd read called Better in the Morning. And the author is Fern Ronay. So she kept talking about it's one of the best books I ever read. And I was like, why is this woman talking about this author? Well, this book is all about signs from the other side and going to bed at night and dreaming and how your loved ones come to visit you. So I loved it. So I reached out to not only the author, but also Ornella. I was like, hey, just by the way, I bought the book and I wanted to tell you that I loved it. So thank you. Well, that started a friendship with Ornella and I. So Ornella and I become really good friends. She lives in Toronto. We had the Canadian thing going. We had the Italian commonality as well. And of course, this subject matter. And Ornella at this point is like, oh, you love all that stuff? Let me send you a link. So one day, 3 or 4 years later, she sends me this link to this lady, and her name is Helen Peacock. And she's like, you got to check out this woman. So I'm like, all right, I'll check, sure. I trust Ornella, so sure. And there you are. And I'm watching and I'm like, oh my God, this woman is so cool. She's like fun. You're not like your typical what people would assume as a medium. You're beautiful, you're young, you're fun. You've got this great like joie de vivre, this zest for life. You were so different than any other mediums that I'd seen. I was like, I like this chick. She's cool. And then one day you were doing an Instagram live and I had just lost my dad. So I was in a very fragile place, as most people who's lost anybody would understand. And I was late. My kids weren't home and I was by myself and I'm like, what do I have to lose? So I got on your Instagram live and you're like, put a heart if you want me to reach out to you. And I was the first person you reached out to. Wow. Which has never happened to me. Like never. I've jumped on all kinds of things and everyone's always like, okay, next. So I was floored. And my dad came through, which I was not. So I wasn't expecting to A, be on an Instagram live, B, get chosen, and C, that my dad was going to be like, hey, what's up? What's going on?
Wow. And I love it.
It was really, it was amazing. And he had only been gone a couple of weeks. So I was very raw. And you had picked up on some incredible things. Phenomenal. But so afterwards, after the 5 minutes that you gave me, you moved on because, you can't spend all your time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I got to have more with this lady. So I booked a session and it was like, literally, I had to wait a bit because you're busy. So I had to wait a couple of weeks and then I had a one-on-one with you and you had no recollection. And it wasn't until afterwards that I told you, but you gave me, very precise, just some beautiful messages. Some of them that we think are so silly, but it just lets you understand that they hear and see even the silly things. You said something like, are you making fun of because I thought I was gaining some weight. And I was like, oh my God, I just said that to myself. You're like, well, they're telling you, no, not so much, but it's something as silly as that. So it was after the fact, and when it was all said and done, I forget how you're like, I really want to do I said, I think I said to you, you're pretty awesome. And, you should do this more often or however we brought it up. And you said, well, I've been wanting to do a podcast. And I'm like, oh, well, by the way, I'm a radio personality. And I happen to know somebody who is launching her own podcast company, which was Diane Ray. So I put you guys in touch and here we are. So that was kind of a long story and I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't boring, but
no. That's the whole point, is sharing with our listeners is how this unfolded and trusting that the universe sets it up. You set the intention, you put it out there. You do make the effort by taking the little baby steps, right? And then trusting that the universe is going to match that, whether it's the right people, the right circumstances.
That's just it. And look at the people. Yeah.
That was my whole point was, I had a girlfriend, my best friend, she was like, kept nudging me, Helen, you should do your own podcast. Like, I don't know nothing about podcasts. I'm not a techie person. And I'm like, yeah. And it's one of those things I kept putting off. And then more and more people were starting to say it to me. And then I was really, really getting serious about it. I'm like, okay, well, and the next thing you know, here you are. And here we are now. And I'm just saying that's what I want to share with my listeners is if you really set the intention and visualize, right? And then it's like, okay, so I'll meet up with Diane. And then it was just a matter of, what do I call this? Spirit chat, right? Then coming together, how do I create the banner, right? So all of that. And so this is where I'm going to say to you right now from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. So much for
You're welcome. I don't even,
helping me make this.
but it wasn't anything that it just kind of, I think that's
You showed
important.
up. You showed up. You booked the session. Now, if we really want to thank someone, it's Ornella, because
Yeah.
I know Ornella. She's very involved in the spiritual community. And I
Yes.
have met her in person a couple of times because there's a couple of events that I've done and she's shown up and she's always coming with these little gifts and she's always pushing people my way. And, she's just a beautiful woman. And I love how she just keeps tapping into her own intuition. And that's what I encourage. And just like yourself, you listen to your intuition. And the more that you listen to those little little nuggets, the more the magic's going to flow, the more the abundance you're going to receive. And it's just a matter of placing that trust. So I think you and I, woohoo, Ornella, if you listen to this.
But you know what else I want to say about it in addition to that is you had the thought, and I think a lot of us, and I'm just as guilty, I manifested for 2 days. Yep. But after 2 days, I didn't get it. So forget it, doesn't work. Right? I think it's important that we be mindful of the fact that, you'd had this podcast thought for a bit. It wasn't like it was overnight. No. We have to make sure everybody understands that it's kind of like planting a seed, and a tree takes time too.
Oh yeah. And it's divine timing. Everything's divine timing. I believe that. Not everybody does. But again, it's like you said, you plant that seed and you think about it and then you manifest that. But here's the secret is when you manifest it, it's not, don't be so particular. Don't put it all in one box. Leave yourself some room for the universe to assist you on how they feel is the right way for you as well. Because it's like saying, okay, I want to buy a house. Hint, hint. I want to buy a house that has 4 bedrooms at this location, 3 bathrooms, a backyard. Like if you stipulate every little idea, then you're not leaving enough room for the universe to give it to you, or you're just gonna have to wait longer. So if you trust that the right house that's meant for you, because they know everything about you. They do. They know your heart's desire. So if you leave room for that, the quicker it's going to come to you.
I love this.
That's my take. That's something that I've learned is leave room for the universe to assist you by not putting yourself in such a tight box.
Probably because maybe there's things we can't even imagine that there are so good. Like
Exactly.
I don't even know sometimes how wonderful something can be. If I don't know, how can I ask for it?
Yep. And that's one thing I'm learning to do too, is asking for help. I try to, I'm that person that always wants to try and figure things out for themselves, like for myself. And I'm learning to have to let go of that. That's my control issue, right? Is like, I want to try, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to ask for help or whatever. And it's just like, and I was just sharing with you very quickly, my last guest, right? Gabby from Hospice Heart. She has a program. She did have a program that was out this past Sunday. And so we did the show. When did we do it? Last Monday, I think. Yeah, it was last Monday it was last Tuesday. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to promote your show, your event on the Sunday. How am I going to get this up and running? Meaning my sound editor, I wanted to put together a banner. I wanted it to look so professional, all of that. And all I did was, okay, so I recorded it. Okay, we had the interview. Then I went right upstairs and I did my intro, my outro, which is something I don't normally do. And then I immediately sent it to my sound editor. And I said, if you can help me out, I know you're probably busy too, but if you could please somehow get this up in time. And then I reached out to Diane. I need a banner. How do I do this? Da, 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 da. So I asked for help and it was up the next day.
And people were willing to help.
They were willing to help.
Isn't that beautiful?
Already, I am so touched. already I've had almost 100 listeners within 1 week listening to that one
And
show.
it's just the beginning.
Right. Right. So again, it's just that I'm learning so much just through this alone. And again, trust the universe. But I want to go back to Julie Guy.
Yes,
Um,
tell me.
well, before, because one day I'll come visit you in Florida. Because
Yes, you have
I
to.
do, I do
Pretty
love
nice
Florida.
here.
And there's two people I want to share with my listeners that you have met. Actually, there's three. And there's two that I didn't know, but I was a little snoop last night.
You were?
Uh, Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora. Hello.
Oh, favorite band ever.
There's pictures of you with them. What the fuck?
Yes. I forgot I'm not on the radio. I can curse. Yes, they're my favorite band. They're my favorite of all time. I have seen them. I saw them in Montreal.
Yep.
I have traveled to see them.
Wow.
Richie, I love Richie. Richie was my love. And then Richie left, but he's coming back. That is the rumor that I've heard, and I'm very excited. And John, I mean, they're just my favorite. They are, whenever they come to town, my best friend and I, we don't invite anybody else. It's just us two. It's like our thing.
Well,
and we go and it's just, I feel like it's magical.
Well, I got excited for you when I saw the picture of you and them, right? And I'm like, oh no way, I gotta bring that up in the podcast, because
Yes.
I was always a huge fan of Bon Jovi, right? So I had a connection in Toronto with my ex, good friends with the security guy.
Yeah.
Walked us right up to the front stage, and we were so close. Here's my ex standing beside me, right? Standing so close that I goggling him, and next thing you know, his sweat landed on me. I've never taken a shower.
Oh, again. Helen, every girl's dream. John Bon Jovi sweat.
That's my story.
Great story. It's a great story. And there's a reason why he's your ex, right?
I thank my ex for that. Yeah. I was
That's awesome. So we have a Bon Jovi connection too.
We do. And then there's one more. Hello, the very first psychic medium I ever went to see, Toronto Massey Hall, was floored, even though I was up in the balcony, like, yeah, I'm not going to get a reading. But anyway, my first experience. And John Edwards.
That's how I know Ornella. You know that. Ornella was following John on Twitter.
Oh, she follows everybody.
Yes. But I mean, so John and I are friends.
Yes.
Like, he's my friend. Yes. I love John. So that's a great story. That's a really good story. And it has to do with Bon Jovi.
See? Oh my goodness. Are you serious? So no, that's all tying in all together.
Why you had to bring up Bon Jovi. So everyone who's watching this or listening to this, I mean, this is synchronistic.
Share away.
When I started in radio.
Yeah.
At 19, I went to a radio station called Power 96. Just sit with me because it's a good story.
Yep.
And I worked there for 2 whole weeks because I hated it. I was like the phone girl. I had to call people, and I'm not a good person to do that. Like, they're rude and they hung up, and I was sensitive. I was like, this isn't for me. But in those 2 weeks, I made an impact, I guess, on somebody who worked there. This woman couldn't even tell you that her name at that time. That's 19. Now I'm 23 or 22 or 23 years old, 23. And I'm working for WSHE, which is a rock station. Ooh. And I'm actually working there. And Bon Jovi comes to town. And I say to my promotions person, I'm like, listen, I don't know what you have to do, but I am going and I am meeting John Bon Jovi. You're going to get me backstage. They were like, yeah. So I was. So my best friend and I, because we're our Bon Jovi, that's our thing. We're standing in line to meet the band. And it's kind of a cattle call. So it's not glamorous and fabulous like everyone thinks. It's really not. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great, but it's not like you think, I was like, he's going to meet us and he's going to marry me. And that's just the way it's going to work. Of course not. So anyway, and standing in this cattle call of a line, we're in front of a mom and her daughter. And the daughter has a camera shoved inside of her bra. So you couldn't not see it. I was thinking, listen, buddy, because we weren't allowed to have phone. They were going to take pictures for us. And I'm thinking, listen, little girl, like, who you kidding? That's a giant, your boobs are not square. So she ends up befriending us because she's young and she's cute. And we're like, oh, she's so cute. And her mom says to me, hey, don't I know you? And I said, I don't know. She's like, didn't you work at Power 96 when you were 19? I'm like, yeah, who are you? So she worked at the station and her daughter was Katrina. Guess who her cousin is? The mom, John Edward.
No.
Yeah. So Katrina is a kid. She's in high school and she's enamored of me and wants to know, could she be my intern? I'm like, sure. I guess, sure. I'd never had an intern before because I was just starting out. So I'm like, going to be my intern? She turned out to be the best intern, the best everything. So she becomes my intern. And as she's my intern, she starts saying to me, hey, do you believe in like people who talk to dead people? And I'm like, at that point, I hadn't lost anybody. So I said, no, that's weird. But hey, I love a good psychic reading. She's like, well, it's kind of the same and whatever. So she's my intern now for about a year. And she goes, you want to come see my cousin? His name is John. And he's starting out and he didn't have the show yet or anything like that. So this is like 1994 at this point now. I'm like, okay. I go with my mom. My mom's all into it. We go there. We're not really sure what the hell we're listening to. We're like, this guy is saying that he's listening. You know, when you're not ready to absorb the information.
At his house?
Pardon me?
Go to his house?
No, it was at a little small venue and it was weird. Like, this is weird. So then she introduces me to him and he's like, Julie, this is my cousin John, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay. So nice guy. He's my age. We're the same age. So it's kind of like, I felt like I was meeting like, you know, a good friend.
Yeah.
So then I lose my mom.
Oh.
Then he refuses to read for me. And I'm like, wait a minute, aren't we friends? And he goes, that's why.
That's the problem.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to.
That
And you know what? I respect the hell out of him for that. And truth be told, I had gone to see him a million times after my mom passed, because now all of a sudden I'm ready. Right. But it's funny how it all played out. Now all of a sudden I'm ready to hear the message, and it's not coming because it's not time. And then I'd gone to see him probably 12 times. And, you know, Katrina, which I call her Keebler because she's 5 feet tall. She always put me in the front row. The one time I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go because I was like, I don't even want to go. He's not even going to read for me. The one time I go and I'm in the bathroom, guess who decides to read for me is John at that point, because he didn't know I was there. So he was able to give me a little reading. That was the only time, and that was it. He will not read for me at all. Yeah. But I love him. I love the work he does. He's different than everybody, just like you're different.
Yeah.
And the way the messages come across are different. And I think that's important for people to know when you go to different mediums, because I've been to several. I have lost both my parents. So obviously I'm always wanting to talk to them. You have your warm, fun, bubbly way, and he's very different. He's just very black and white and cut and dry. And we've talked to him about that. And he said, you know, it's easy to get caught up in the emotion. Mm-hmm. So I guess he has to protect himself, which I don't blame him. Mm-hmm. And he's phenomenal. I can't say it. He's phenomenal. He does such good work and he's so good to people. And I love her to death. Pardon the pun. But that is how I met John. So through Bon Jovi, which she loves, that's one of her favorite bands. Through Bon Jovi, I met her, reintroducing to her mom, who recognized me, and here we are. There's no coincidences. There are
just fucked up.
And you didn't know that story.
I didn't know that story. And that's why I'm saying that. It's so effed up, because here we are. And I said to the beginning, I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want to surprise you. Because it surprised me because I went through your Instagram, right? Because, you know, my listeners have to know, I don't really know you. I'm just getting to know you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've never really scrolled through your Instagram. And all of a sudden I see these pictures and I'm like, no, that bitch, no, in a good way, of course. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I am going to mention that. So it's almost like I was nudged, and this was late at night last night. So I'm just, just scrolling through, what I want to talk about with Julie with. And then all of a sudden I see that. Oh yeah. I'm bringing that one up. Oh yeah.
He's a good dude.
And so it makes sense. It makes
Yeah,
sense why I was supposed to bring that up, because it just segued right into the whole John Edwards. And like, how am I going to get her to talk about John Edwards? Because I was intrigued when you and I first met. You said you were friends with him. And I'm like, he's the very, very first psychic I'd ever seen on a live stage. And
I
not
think
knowing that, not knowing
right,
that I would be doing the same thing. Well, not to that capacity.
right. But isn't what I want to give him credit for is bringing it to people's attention.
Yes.
And I love that about him. He is so good about letting everybody know, like, this is
for real.
still connect with your people. And it's
Exactly.
when you're grieving, you don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you're in a totally different mindset. That's why I always tell my clients, please do not come see me for like, 3 to 4 months, because you are grieving, and they're in their transition, they're doing their thing, whatever, but you're not going to be able to absorb it all. And the connection would be that much more stronger if you do wait, right? And I learned a lot from John Edwards. And this is before that I was going to take this seriously and do what I'm doing now. But I used to watch his TV show, Crossing Over, right? Was it Crossing Over?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I used to watch that religiously, just as, it's like, wow, here's this dude. Like, check this guy out. Yeah. So he was just like my stepping stone, getting me started, getting me interested. And I also read, I think I don't know how many books he has out, but I know that I read a couple of them.
Yes, me too. He has many books. I think I've lost count too. Yeah. And that's what I love, that he continues to put forth that, this is real, and to connect with those that have crossed. But his message is always that, hey, try to do it in this life.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
you want to be able to say what you would. So that's his main. I mean, I don't want to speak for him at all. I don't want to do that.
But my thing too is, especially for my listeners, is go out there if you're interested in having your own, because that's what I promote. Whenever my clients come to my house, first thing I say to them is, you need to know that you can do what I do. I don't even really consider it a gift, because we're born with it. It's just a matter of trusting it, building it, using it, all of that. And so, and I say that to them. I said, when you leave here today, it's important for me to know that your loved ones are not hanging out here with me. I got enough going on. They're going home with you, and they are going to be all over you. So now that you step through this portal with me, and we've experienced your loved ones in the same space, now be aware. Don't sit there and wait, but be aware. Have your awareness hat on, and
know that beautiful that you say that.
That's know that your loved ones are going to be around with you more, because now you are more aware, right? But again, as I always say, signs are not signs. If you're looking for them, they're not. The signs will drop in when you least expect it. So speaking of signs, if you go back and watch this video, I kept looking up.
Yeah, I did notice that.
In front of me is my window.
Okay.
And there's an eaves trough. And the whole time there was a dove sitting right there, looking right down as you were talking. And I'm like, okay. And I wrote it down. I wrote it down, like, to remind myself to say that to you. I'm like, oh, she's getting a visit. She's so getting a visit. And that's what I mean. I was just sitting here and I could feel it. I'm like, yep, I'm going to tell her. I'm going to tell her.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I needed to hear that. I miss them terribly.
Yeah. So do you want to share with my listeners, if they want to follow you? You're an advocate for promoting and sharing your fundraiser events, things like that. You're an marathon runner. I'm jealous of that.
Oh, I have to be honest. I've kind of put that on the back burner. I was a big runner. Now I do. I'm a big Orange Theory / F45 enthusiast.
Yes, you and I had that chat. F45.
Yeah, I love F45. Ladies, don't ever think you shouldn't lift, because you won't bulk up like a man.
No, not
look at you. But
it's functional training. That's what people have. Well, what's the F stand for? It's functional, right?
Functional, exactly. Yeah. And I love Orange Theory too. So that's where I get a little bit of my cardio in. But I love both of them. So, but I just, I don't even think I did this intentionally, but I guess maybe I did. I just really believe in doing stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
like because I'm a quasi public figure, you know, I just because I think I've been around for a long time and people are like, yeah, I know her. I'm pretty sure I know her. Like they're not always sure where they know me
Yeah.
from, which is kind of nice. I love to do things to give back. I've done so many things for Cancer Society and for leukemia. I just everything. I've done it all.
Everything. I love
Down
that about you.
syndrome. And
I
I just
love that.
and that's just of my own vocation. I
Yeah.
some I get paid for, but very, very rare. Mostly
Yeah.
it's just my time. And I believe in it. You know how many wonderful people I've met doing that? Like I really have met the coolest people that I would never meet in normal everyday going
Well,
to the grocery store
that's what
life.
I share that as well with my clients is, you know, find things to do that is not something you normally do, because
Right.
that's where your dots are being connected, right? If you just do the same thing every day, stay home, then how are you going to receive opportunities and gifts and abundance if you're doing the same thing? It's putting yourself out there, opening up your heart, and showing up. You know, there's a lot of people that's like, no, well, I don't know, and then they're wishy-washy, and it's like, just fucking show up. You never know what's going to happen, right? And it just it just broadens your horizon even more. So it's just being active. I love that about you, doing the fundraisers, showing up that way, giving back. You know, you give, you receive, you receive, you give. It's like that give and take, and that's where
Yeah.
you find the balance. But quick question before we sign off is, what does your morning show entail? Like, what do you chat about?
Well, it's music. We do play music,
Yeah.
but I do have a co-host, and her name is Tamara G. And our show is called Those Two Girls in the Morning because we
Ooh,
start at
ooh,
5:30 a.m.
wow.
And we talk, we have our conversations are geared to lifestyle. You know,
Mm.
obviously we shy away from politics and any kind of religion. Although people know, like I always say this on the air, I'm like, you guys know I'm the woo-woo one. You know, because I believe, you know, we just talked about Mercury retrograde the other day. I'm like, I
Yes.
don't care what any of
Ooh.
you think. It's true. My AC broke.
Yeah.
I had to return some, you know, the wrong shipment came in from Amazon. Like don't tell me Amazon, you know, Mercury retrograde's not real. But we talk about things. We talk about kids. We talk about work-life balance, which is non-existent. We talk about silly things, everyday things that we go through that you think are no big deal.
Yeah.
We had a huge discussion on the carts at the grocery store. Who puts them back and who doesn't? And if you don't, you're an evil person. I was like, you can't do
Yeah.
that. As silly as that sounds, people were like, had to call in and be like, listen, I make it a point to return. And I was like, wow, we're really talking about this for an hour?
It's
Okay.
funny that you say that, because I used to bitch and complain and say these shopping carts should have brakes on them, just like strollers. You know your strollers when you're putting
Yes.
your
Yes.
they have brakes on them. Well, why don't shopping carts have brakes on
Oh,
them?
Helen, there's your next big invention.
Yeah,
This podcast thing doesn't work out for you.
patent that.
No, we just have great conversations about it could be something in the news, it could be a date she went on. I try to, you know, my kids are very mortified by the time, you know, that I talk about them on the air, but oh well. It's what pays the
They're
bills,
part of the
kiddo.
package. They're
Yeah.
totally part of the package.
So, but yeah, I really love working with her. And don't get me wrong, I didn't work with her my whole career. She is, and another thing I like to always promote is girl power. I'm all about it.
Love it.
I don't just say that, like I'm all about it. And her and I, like, I feel like she's my soulmate. And she was sitting here, she'd be like, we are not a couple. Like, I know, we're not a couple.
Stay in
Now,
your
there's
lane.
nothing wrong with that. Right. But we stay in your lane. But we just really, we respect each other. There is zero ego. There is zero competition. If she has an idea, I have an idea. It's like, okay, let's throw it against the wall and see which one
Love
sticks.
it.
So
Improvise.
I love her. So I enjoy working with her very, very much. And I hope
That's
it'll keep
important.
going.
That's really,
Yeah.
really important. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully, if my listeners, especially if they're out your way down in Florida, again, it's 101.5 Light FM, and it's
Yes.
Julie Guy. And what's the name of the show again? The two girls,
Those two girls in the morning.
those two girls in the morning. And you have your own Instagram page too for that,
We
right?
do. You can follow those two girls, Miami. Or you can follow me, Julie Guy, on
Jovi
air.
guy, and
And
that's
we can
GUY.
GUI. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to wrap it up because I do have a client in a half an hour.
How lucky is
But
that client?
I just thank you. But thank you for showing up, being here, and just
Helen,
sharing your beautiful energy with me.
you are a bright light. You are
Thank you.
you're effervescent and you're positive and you're just, I loved meeting you, and I knew we were going to be friends. I was like, if you lived in
Yes.
Florida, we could still hang out.
Oh, absolutely. We just got to find it because, just so you know, I don't
Yeah.
wake up at 5 or 5:30. Yeah, no, not in my world. So we'd have to book it in such a way where you're not working, or I can go off on my own a little bit, and we'll figure that out. But it's going to
Figure
happen.
it out down the line.
We're,
Yes.
we're putting that out there.
Yes.
Putting it out.
Manifesting.
All right, my friend. Thank you. And my listeners, I hope you enjoyed Julie as much as I did.
Oh,
And yeah, episode 11.
I love it. This was a treat. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Be well.
Bye.
Does that mean, are you going to escape?